it's I think right now we are in this time in which we are unfortunately only starting to catch up with the fact that we as men also need to think about what it is to be men.
The Art of Rising. Conversations with leaders, warriors, and thinkers who live with intention. Less noise, more clarity. Let's rise. Do it. Welcome to the Art of Rising, where we are exploring leadership and higher conscious visionaries changing the planet. I'm here with a proud brother. I'm actually proud to be with him and speaking with him. Fascinating background. I'll just allow him to introduce himself. Brother, please, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're living and what are you doing with yourself these days.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Dr. Simon Fokt. I am a philosopher. I currently live in Berlin, where I moved from Scotland, where I did my PhD in philosophy. And I teach applied ethics at the Applied Sciences University in Berlin. And recently, I have started a new NGO, a nonprofit organization devoted to helping men thrive in the modern world, while at the same time being committed to gender justice and equality and finding their place in this world that has changed so much recently, and perhaps do some critical and growing work about our manliness, masculinities. So that's been my focus right now. Yes. Apart from this, I mean, I play music. I do lots of other kind of fun little activities. But yeah, I think I like to focus mostly on the masculinity stuff.
That's powerful. You know, back in the days when people would transition, right on their tombstone, it would be like, philosopher, scientist, all these type of things. Right now, it's just like, oh, he was just a nice guy. And like, they don't even put anything, right? So,
True. I think on my tombstone they would put also tea drinker. I love tea. Good
me
tea
too.
is
Me
the
too.
juice of
Me
life.
too. Oh, definitely. I go to the
Fantastic.
tea shops. I go to tea ceremonies.
Really? All
Yeah.
right.
On a side note, I read in this book about the history of tea, where in China the emperor used to drink hot water because his advisors told him that it was great for his digestion. And then the story goes that a heavy wind came and blew some leaves in the hot water.
Right.
So here we are in this crazy world. Things seem to be very twisted. I'm walking in the street. I see things. I don't want to get too deep into it. You already know what I'm talking about, right? And it just seems like we've gone off course on some of these things. But here I am, like pushing my body to the limit in my mind. Like I'm devouring books and creating. We have this company that we're doing, and there's festivals, and I do coaching, and then there's the men's retreats also, which is one of the things that attracted me to you also, because I feel that men just don't realize some things, and they should. But perhaps you could tell me, where do you believe that modern masculinity has gone off course, and where do you think some of the things men are carrying that they don't even know that they're carrying?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a broad question, but I think that I think that modern world has gone, of course, a little bit, and I would like to conceptualize this more in terms of our capacity to actually deal with the fact that the world is a bit crazy right now, and just with the pace of change. I think that the modern world is just changing so fast that it has created so much uncertainty around just daily life. And I mean, you can talk about it on the political level, economic level, AIs and the social changes as well, right? I mean, feminism has changed our social world a lot. And in many ways, it's about kind of being able to find yourself in this new world. And I don't think so much that modern masculinity has kind of gone off course. I think that the world has moved on and masculinity hasn't kind of moved on with it.
Mm,
Um, and
love
in a
that.
way, it's become a lot of the things that I think we have been taught as boys as to how to be men have been really good in the 19th century, maybe up to the middle of the 20th century, but they're really not fit for the modern world anymore, right? They're not fit for a world in which The gender roles with respect to our economic capacities have massively changed. They're not fit for a world in which um, the industry is more based on, I know, services and soft skills and things like this. They're not fit for a world in which people don't need to be in relationships anymore. People can make their life perfectly good being single. And they're not fit for a world in which we have become aware of so many other things and inequalities and injustices in the world that we really need to care about and we need to take care of. So, in many ways, I think that it's about catching up with the world, or maybe not catching up with the world. And you can say that men are kind of uniquely positioned in there because, well, for the last 200 plus years, we had this worldwide movement called feminism that, women have done a lot of work on questioning what is it to be a woman, how should they show up in the world? Do the social norms that are there around womanhood, are they actually good for them, or are they not good for them? How can they make the life better for themselves, right? And they've been thinking about this literally for centuries right now, right? um, and men have not. And it's I think right now we are in this time in which we are unfortunately only starting to catch up with the fact that we as men also need to think about what it is to be men. How should we show up? Are the things that we were taught as kids about manhood, are they good things? Or even if they were good things, are they still good things? Do they still befit this modern world? So I think that very often, even people who, like you said in your question, are kind of like well-intentioned, right? And they don't want to be bad men. They
Right.
still kind of carry those models of what it is to be a man that
Mm.
are just out of date, that are just not really fitting into this modern world. And they might be, focused very much on things like, how do I optimize my life in order to become an attractive mate or something
Mm.
like that, right? I mean, the internet is full of this sort of advice,
Mm.
and they don't, and they think constantly in this, like, in terms of competing with other men, for example, for either in the business world or for female attention and things like this. And they don't notice that in this modern world, they're not really competing with other men, at least when it comes to romantic life. They're competing with singledom. They're competing
Mm.
with the fact that it's easy to be single these days. Like, women don't need it, right? And
Mm. Mm.
in trying to kind of optimize to be the kind of man who might, in their mind, or like maybe in the previous, decades or centuries, used to be really attractive because women needed men to
Mm.
survive,
Mm.
they're optimizing for something that is out of date.
Right.
Because in these days, many women would rather be single than be with them.
Right.
And being
Yeah.
single is a viable option. So I think that this is just one example of how, you can be really well intentioned and you might want to optimize on the things that you've been told are important without ever questioning, like, are they really still important? And you might be really well intentioned. You might really want to create a better life for yourself. You might think that you're providing something for others that they really need. And you unknowingly optimize for something that is just not important anymore.
Mm. Yeah, especially in a modern day age, because I'm a big history buff, and when I was coming up, things were quite different, right? We were just coming out of sort of close to the industrial age, and the man was the one who went to work, and the
Yeah.
woman stood home. You see, but then when things started changing, like in the '60s, and right, I was born in '67, right? So coming up now, it's the '70s, and I could see how even with my parents, like my mom was saying, "Hey, I'm the one that's supposed to stay home," and then dad was looking at her like, "No, you need to go out and work too."
Yeah.
So that shift be, started to happen, yet the mindset did not change. But now here we are, fast forward to 2026. Women work all the time. I mean, my wife is working too. We have two kids where probably back in the days, we probably would have had a minimum of five or six, just to start with. But we have two kids, so the dynamics have changed there too. But it was
Yeah.
a power point That's what it was. It was like a the I'm the man, like I'm supposed to be doing this and I'm leading. But what happens when the wife starts doing those things too? You see?
Exactly. And I think that's what the phrase that you just used is I'm supposed to be doing this. Like, notice this is like, where does it come from? Who told you you're supposed to be doing this? Why? Right? And that's what I mean, as for 200 years plus, women have been questioning this, I'm supposed to be doing this.
Mhm.
Right? Who told you you're supposed to be doing that? Does it actually work for you? Is it
Right.
actually good for your family, for your, wider circle? Is it good for your capacity to build friendships? Is it good for your longer life? Is it good for your nation? Is it good? I mean, so many questions, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
when people stop at this, I'm supposed to be doing it, and not questioning further, I think this is what creates this dynamic, and which, you feel like you're going off course,
mhm.
because, well, the course is somewhere in there, but you're not looking for it. You're just going on autopilot wherever the autopilot tells you to.
Right. I mean, I've personally been on that autopilot too,
Mm,
until I started to wake up a little bit, and see like, hey, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be doing this like this, and we should move things around. Like, what's wrong with that? And then it's sort of like swimming upstream. All the fishes are going this way,
mhm.
and I'm going this way, and then they have the bears on the rocks waiting for me to come out for them to grab me and bite my head off. Like it's really a struggle, it can be, but me
Well, it
personally, I
is a
feel it's worth it.
struggle. It is a struggle, but also I think that this is perhaps something to tap into. And I really like, when talking about those things, I always like to focus on the positives. And I think it's an adventure. It's not a
Mhm.
struggle. It's like it's
Yeah.
an opportunity to show all of the strength and the
Mhm.
confidence and all of the awesome things about being a man, right? I mean, we
Yes.
so talk so much about, strength being related to masculinity. I mean, not that, anyone can be strong. I don't think it's uniquely related to masculinity. But if you are a man and you want to be strong, then what an amazing way to showcase your strength, right? Being able to swim upstream, being able to make your own truth, being able to question things and actually
Mhm.
inspect them yourself rather than going on autopilot. I think this is exactly the kind of strength that we need in the 21st century. And
Mhm.
that's a strength that is not focused on like dominating others or something
Mhm.
like this, but rather on, like, it's
Mhm.
exploration, it's
It
finding
is.
out new
I
ways. It's, I don't know, discovery. How
I
exciting is that?
I totally agree. I feel that personally, we're sitting inside of a Ferrari, like a high performance vehicle, right? And then
Mhm,
we should put high octane fuel in it too, and then take it out for a run too, which I'm sure we're going to get into that. But it makes me think of Socrates, right? The crimes that they got him for.
mhm.
It was not worshiping the local gods and influencing the young people, right? So, what was influencing the young people? He was just telling them, like, think about it. Why do you do that? Why do you go here? Why you were taught that? Like, try to think out of the box.
Absolutely. I mean, the story of Socrates is really, really interesting because he was sentenced for those things, as you say. So for corrupting the youth and for not respecting the gods. These were largely, excuses to
Yep.
really
Yep.
get him, for the fact that he was just really annoying to a lot of powerful people. And he was
Mhm.
really annoying because he was asking uncomfortable questions all the time. And as
Mhm.
much as Socrates was fond of promoting this Socratic method in which you don't tell people what they are supposed to think, rather than that you just probe them with questions and allow them to arrive at their own answers,
Mhm.
um, many kind of philosophers and scholars of ancient philosophy say that Socrates probably was not actually the best example of using the Socratic method, and
Okay.
he would quite often kind of ask very leading questions and
Mhm.
make people feel bad about themselves,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
obviously you make a lot of enemies in this way. So I think his
Mhm.
trial, like those reasons for trying him historically, were probably just excuses. He just
Mhm.
made a lot of enemies.
Right. And then the schools started opening up after they got rid of him too, right? So it kind of like backfired, but also it worked perfectly. Like
Well, in terms of preserving his legacy and everything, absolutely. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
great move. If you want to be remembered rather than happy and alive, great move.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about other leaders too, they do that, often too. When you think of supposedly Jesus, and he was. upsetting a lot of people that were in positions of power, stuff like that. Or Gandhi, I love his story too. Like he was
Mhm.
just wanted to ride the train, and they kicked him in his ass off the train. Like he was like, "What? I'll be back," And then he started doing these things and sacrificing these things. But it seemed to have opened up the door for people to think about things like, why is it that we're doing this? We're in this system that is almost like painting ourselves in the corner, especially for men. Like we need to think about, what is our position here, and why are we doing these things, and should we just keep going and then retire, and what's my legacy? And I have all of these questions myself. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm really happy that you mention systems in here. I think it's really important that we focus on how the systems we are embedded in, that we live in, impact our lives. A lot of the advice that you see on the internet for men is very much focused on personal development, what you can do to optimize your life so that you can function the best within the system that that you're in, or at least that they believe you're in, because I think quite often those people might be mistaken about the systems you're actually in, like the dating system, right? In which you're not really competing against other men, you might be competing against loneliness or like singledom. Um, but abstracting from this, I think it's really important that the systems is what we focus on, right? Because, well, if we don't change, I don't know, the schools that we have, or we don't change the stories that we tell, we don't change the, I know, games, the, industry, we will raise new generations of men who think exactly the same. And I think that having those opportunities to really rethink how our systems work is like the core of what we should be doing.
For sure, for sure. I think about strength, and how is it that I define being a strong man, right?
Hmm.
Especially when a woman can do just about anything that I do, and
Hmm.
oftentimes better, you know. So, what makes me a strong man and separates me, and some of the things that come to my mind is being responsible, right? Responding to my environment, especially if I have decided to be with a woman and share children with her. See, so it kind of puts me in that position of leadership now. I have to play that role, or I should, because I have these young ones watching me. But then what is it that I'm doing that makes me strong too? Is it just going to work? Because I don't
Hmm.
think so. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Providing is important for the family because we have to eat and shelter and things of that nature. But what else? There's
Well,
art, there's poetry, there's writing, there's exercise, training the body, pushing the mind, putting myself in uncomfortable positions, because life throws a lot at you.
well, I think in the case of children, there is one word, which is connection. Is actually building a real connection that will teach them also to feel securely connected to other people. I think it's one of the most important things that men, I think, have been really struggling with over the last, I don't know, however long. I know I have been struggling with it myself. And in many ways, when I say a lot of those things, I mean, they're autobiographical. I have struggled with so many of those things myself. And in a way, I feel moved to do this work because I can see myself going on a completely different path if I didn't meet the right people at the right time and things like this. And I had the luck to actually do some of this thinking, and I want to share that with others as well, because I don't think that I'm that different. I'm still struggling with a lot of those things, and connection is definitely one of the things that I struggle with, because when I was a kid, um, I my dad was a great representative of his generation. He thought that he needs to provide for the family, go to work, bring the money in, and then his role finished. And I think that I have I would have benefited from having a more present dad, for example, and I would have benefited from that in terms of being able to develop my own emotional capacities, my capacity to feel secure, my capacity to love, my capacity um, to feel like I can connect with people without having to impress them all the time, for example, right? And I think that we know. from research that is repeated again and again and again and again, that the thing that brings people the most happiness and life satisfaction is connection with other people, right? And we know this from this famous Harvard study, the one that started in like 1935 or something like this, that's been tracking the same people over decades of their lives and all of that, and checking what it is that actually predicts most likely how satisfied with life they are, how healthy they are, how long will they live, and stuff like that. And the number one thing that is there is how good a social connection circle do they have. And that's not just having a great partner, it's also having good friends, having good relations with their family, having good relations with their kids, and all of that, right? And I think that as if you're in this situation in which you're thinking how you can, for example, help your children, right, is helping them build healthy connections and helping them build this capacity that develops very early in life to find ways to feel secure in those most important connections, family connections, is extremely important. And here, coming back to the systemic change that I think is so vital, I collaborate with a great NGO from Poland called Share the Care, and they have been fighting and very successfully to do a very simple systemic change which supports this, which is extend parental leave for fathers, right? So that when you have a kid, you can actually go off work and spend time with your kid. Because
Right.
in so many countries still, maternity leave is a thing, but paternity leave is another thing, or
Mm.
at least it is much shorter, right?
Right.
Which structurally and systemically prevents men from building connection with their kids. Now,
Right.
on top of this, it's not just that there's this kind of systemic barrier that you cannot get the leave, it's also a cultural barrier. Because what they have found in Poland, for example, is that even when this has been institutionalized, introduced, many men would still not take this leave, right?
Mm.
They could take it, but they wouldn't. And why is that? Well, because culturally it is still seen as detrimental to your career, for example, or maybe a bit unmanly or whatever else, right?
Mm.
But you have to make the move somehow. Obviously, the first year after you've introduced this, the world will not change overnight.
Mm.
But hopefully, after 10, 15 years of this being institutionalized and this being systemically available to people,
Mm.
this will start changing. And we
Mm.
will see more people, more men who want to be more present fathers, who want to
Mm.
be with their kids, build a real connection with their kids, and teach their kids from this early age what connection means, what being in tune with your love means,
Mhm.
what being in tune with your capacity to, really empathize with other people and feel into them. And these
Mhm.
are such vital skills in life.
For sure. Myself, I have an 8-year-old and a 10 at home. I also have a 33-year-old, by the way, too. But
Hmm.
for that one, she got the part-time dad. With these kids, like I'm full-time. I'm way in it. Many of those things that you speak about, it took
Hmm.
me time to realize these things and wake up, from this kind of fog that I was in. But once I started getting a handle on it, I read to my kids at bedtime every night. Like I try my best not to make that skip. I take them to school, I pick them up, we go to the parks. I'm the guy playing with them, in the jumper and all of that, not the parent on the side, missing it, texting. It's just it's really sad because they're missing it and it goes by fast, but not for me. I want to be in it all the time. We color, we paint, we write, we go to museums, and yes, there's junk too, and I gotta, we go to the movies and stuff like that too, but just having that connection, because I personally
Absolutely.
feel that kids are like the highest teachers, you know you
Oh,
know
that's beautiful, man. I'm really happy, and yeah, I'm really happy for you in this case.
it took me time to realize some of those things because I am on this course of being what a man should be,
Mm,
or pushing closest to that. So even for my body, like I exercise, I run every day, like 6 or 7 miles a day. I'm not
nice.
saying this to be braggadocious. I'm saying it because other men hearing this, they can do that too. Like you should challenge yourself, push your body. We do breath work here too. And we
Hmm.
do ice plunge also. So just yesterday, I was in a big tub with a lot of water and a lot of ice. And what that does for me, it quiets the monkey mind, right? Because the mind is just racing all the time.
For sure.
It activates the reticular activating system. I'm sure people would know about that, and it also creates this mindset that I've already accomplished something very difficult early, and then my day it just sets things up, man. It just opens up just so beautifully, and then there's just more to that too.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So, how about yourself? Like, how does that look for you? Some of the practices that you do in order to live this lifestyle that you speak about.
Right. Well, like I say, I have been continuously discovering the ways in which I think I have been personally not developing the way I would want previously. And definitely emotional intelligence is one of those things. The capacity to empathize and connect with people is something that I had to start developing in my 20s properly. Well, not that I was like, I don't know, completely stunted or anything like this, but, compared with other people in my life, I had work to do. And I have still work to do a lot right now. And I've been trying to really kind of address this. And in many ways, actually, physical exercise is a big part of this as well, because this is a great way to regulate your own mood and to actually deal with emotions sometimes to, blow off some steam so that you can think clearly and you're not kind of like thrown about by your subconscious or whatever else.
Mm, mm,
And so um, I think it's also been, for me at least, tied with this idea that men are also rational, right? And that we are mostly our brains, and then we're brains and muscles, and the rest doesn't really matter so much, right?
mm.
Um, and I think this is so wrong because, well, I mean, there is so much modern science coming out right now showing that our nervous system is so much more than just our brains, and that so much of our cognition happens in the other parts of our body. And this whole idea of embodied cognition has been making a massive splash in philosophy and in the sciences. And kind of connecting with our bodies and actually experiencing the world as embodied creatures rather than brains on sticks is really important. And I have not learned this in the past.
Mm, mm, mm,
So right
mm,
now, a lot of the work that I'm doing is trying to focus more on these sort of embodied experiences having to do with mindfulness or other things like this.
mm,
And I'm also starting therapy again because I just started realizing that there's still some unresolved issues regarding connection, for example, that I have still been struggling with and that have a direct impact on my present day relationships.
mm,
And needless to say, this impact is not positive. So I think it's something that I can, recommend to anyone as well who wants to
mm,
delve deeper into who they are. You mentioned Socrates before. Socrates, in the dialogue in which he is put in front of the court, called the Apology,
mm,
apologia from Greek. Apologia doesn't mean apology the way it means in English. It's more like I don't know, a speech or a excuse, yeah, like explanation.
mm,
And in it, he talks about the motto that he has been trying to live by all his life. And the motto was written on the Delphic oracle to Apollo, so Apollo oracle in Delphi.
mm,
And the motto said, "Know thyself," right?
mm,
And he says that all he has been trying to do was trying to get to know himself and trying to help others to know themselves.
mm,
And according to him, at least in the apology, he is put on trial because people don't like to get to know
mm,
themselves because they don't
mm,
like what they find, right?
mm,
And I
mm,
think this is a difficult process because very often this is true. When we try to actually know ourselves, we go like, oh, these are some dark, dark things in there that we have
right.
brought
Mm,
out from home or maybe developed or absorbed culturally from all sorts of messages
mm,
out there.
mm,
And we need to
mm,
face them. And it's uncomfortable and it's difficult. And it's much easier to just, go online and listen to somebody who tells you that you need to take those 5 supplements and push a little bit more in the gym and you'll be fine, right?
mm,
But you're not going to be fine. You're just going to put a plaster over a bleeding wound, and it's not going to really,
Mhm,
you
mhm,
need to stop, the root cause of the things, and that will actually
mhm,
require you to do a bit more difficult work. And this difficult work is the work of knowing yourself and
mhm,
knowing how to deal with yourself.
mhm,
And yeah, that's the work that I find, you know, I do. And right now I want to do in a more structured way by
mhm.
taking therapy. And yeah, embodied work is such a big part of that as well.
Yeah, the way I live my life as well, it's funny that you should, or not funny, but you brought that up, which is know thyself. And right outside of my house, the door to come into my private quarters, right on the top of the door, I made a sign that says "Know thyself." It's there. It's
Excellent.
been there for years, brother. I kid you not. And one of the reasons why I put it there is I kind of have this vision of people going to the oracle in the Delphi, right? And
Hmm.
then and then the sign was greeting you there, like before you come in here asking for anything, know thyself.
Yeah,
So I feel that before we step into the temple to find out, hey, higher power, higher knowledge, whatever it is that I'm seeking, first I need to know myself. See, I know myself, what makes me tick. And we're not going to find it binge watching Netflix, or reruns of Game of Thrones, or smoking cannabis all day, or these types of things. It takes work. Life is an interactive sport for me. We have to engage in it in order to learn about ourselves, crack ourselves wide open. You know?
absolutely. And I think it's important also to, like I mentioned before, I really like to be positive about all of those things and don't present this as like, oh, this is some hard work you really need to go into because otherwise you're a bad person or something like this. No, it's not about this. It's about like there's some great rewards coming out of this,
Mhm,
because I think that so many of us right now struggle with meaning and purpose. We struggle with knowing why we're getting out of bed in the morning. And I think so many men, the so-called crisis of masculinity that people talk about, I think very often is a crisis of meaning, of not knowing what to do about it, what we're for, right? And how are you going to know what you're for and what your life is meant to be about if you don't know what you actually want,
I love that.
right? And that's, well, you need to know yourself to know this.
Mhm,
And I think it's also related to something that so many people struggle. And I think so many people who are seeking this advice online on how to optimize themselves and how to become better to, I know, perform in life or tick the boxes that are required to be a successful man or whatever else.
mhm,
They do that because they think something is wrong with them, because they don't really like themselves. They don't really love themselves. They don't have really good connection with themselves. And I'm not saying that to judge. I'm in many ways I'm one of those people. I think there is a bit of that in all of us, right?
mhm, mhm,
And loving yourself is a really difficult thing sometimes.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And getting to know yourself, at the beginning you might go like, "Wow, all right, who is this person?" Uh, but as you work on this and you really intentionally uncover who it is that you are, and
mhm,
that and you can shape this and you can create the person that you actually want to be.
mhm,
Nietzsche had a fantastic quote, which is about, or fantastic thought, which is that life is a journey to yourself, or it's about becoming yourself. And the idea in there is that the yourself means the kind of person you want to be, right? Kind of
mhm,
person that
mhm,
you're meant to be, or something like this,
mhm,
or making the reality of you fit the image that you would like to have of yourself. And
mhm,
then, well, you can't do that without knowing yourself. So then the whole process of knowing yourself is not a chore. It's not like something that you need to do because
mhm,
otherwise you're a bad person.
mhm.
No, it's a fantastic opportunity to actually really live life to the full.
Mhm,
It's a fantastic opportunity. It's an adventure. It's an adventure of
mhm,
discovering a
mhm.
really interesting person, connecting with a really interesting person. You
You know,
take that.
Years ago, I used to, man, I remember there was nights where I was up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, traveling across town to go get some substance, like in the mid of winter. Like that was hard, you see. But here I am, like I'm this incredible being and aware of myself and my surroundings. Like I do some of those hard things also, whether it's the breath or the ice. And yeah, it's tough, but just like you said, I am with you 1,000%. It's an incredible journey. I'm more happier doing some of these things. Like I'm reading this book, and
Mhm.
I'm in the ice and I'm running and I'm getting up super early and getting to bed early and preparing my meals and like living this more structured life. And oh my God, it's beautiful. Sometimes I'm just in tears. So with that said, things are hard. Life is hard. There's you're gonna go through hard things no matter what. So why not go through some of the harder things that bring you tremendous benefits and joy, and you get to know who you are and be at peace. Wow.
Absolutely. I think it also is worth noting in here the notion of intentional strife that so many people are floating around right now, which is intentionally doing things that are hard because they're rewarding, right? If everything is easy, then
Mm,
nothing is worth anything.
right.
And unfortunately, and this is once again, we started the conversation from, the fact, like the idea that the world has changed in a way that is challenging for everyone, not just for men. And one of the ways in which it has changed towards this convenience culture in
Mhm,
which everything is a click away, right? You can get anything so easily and so quickly.
mhm,
But that creates exactly this void of meaning because you don't need to try hard for anything anymore. I
mhm,
always use this comparison of, you can take a helicopter to the top of Mont Blanc or some other huge mountain, whatever, right? And you can go there and go like, yes, amazing, I have conquered this huge mountain. And all the people who have actually walked up there in their boots will look at you and go like, what?
mhm.
Seriously, seriously. Like, are you really going to feel like you have achieved something? Well, no. If you want to feel like you achieved something, strap on your boots, take your coat,
Mm,
and walk up, right?
mm,
And
mhm.
life is like this. Like if you,
Love that.
conveniently take a helicopter to every achievement that you're meant to
Mm,
get to, you will
mm,
never feel satisfied. You'll never feel like your life has meaning. It
right,
is about doing the difficult things. This is what brings us meaning.
right. It makes me think of accountability, where I
Hmm.
feel that in our society, we've lost a bit of that. I mean, there's the convenience thing that we could talk about weeks for that, because I bought a lamp the other day, Simon. The lamp came with a remote control. I was
Hmm.
like, you people can't get up and turn off the lamp. It's insane. But how about this accountability? I feel that
Hmm.
it's been lost in this society, in this carefree, go for yours, do you, that type of mentality that often comes from the top, right?
Hmm.
you know and there should be accountability, for yourself, for your family, for your inner circle. It should be a small one, by the way, but your inner core of people that are with the same mindset too.
Hmm.
What do you feel about this? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thought. So I work with Men Engage Europe. This is a organization, like a network of organizations that gathers all the NGOs and charities and other bodies that work with men and boys. And one of the primary things that they have developed is this accountability framework. And the idea behind this framework is to create a system in which all of those organizations that work with men and boys can kind of check themselves for whether what they are doing is actually for the social good or not, is actually
Mm,
for, does actually promote justice or like a more fair society and things like this. So this is one way in which something like this can be institutionalized, and some like one place in which this is actually really practiced. And I'm really happy to be a part of this,
mm,
as I think it's an excellent achievement of this organization to have created this. Now, in our everyday lives, I think it's important to think of accountability in form of a three-place relation. So in
mm,
philosophical logic, we talk about properties and relations as like things that are objects can have, right? So you can have an object such as myself. I can have the property of being, I don't know, 183 centimeters tall, right? That's a property I have. Nothing else needs to be said about it. I can have the property of standing or talking with, sorry, a relation of talking with, and then I need to put a second thing in there. And that's, for example, you, right? I, one object, am talking with you, right? And accountability is something that needs to have three places. It's about who is accountable, for what they're accountable, and to whom they're accountable. And I think
Mm.
it's really important to remember about all of those, because similarly as you cannot say like, I'm standing in between and just leave it at that, or I cannot say I'm standing in between the screen and can't leave it in that, right? I need to
Mm.
say like there need to be three things in there. I'm standing in between something and something. Similarly, when you're accountable, it's not just about being accountable for something, but also accountable to someone, right?
Mm.
And I think this is a really important thing that we need to focus on when talking about it, because we used to have this concept of accountability that was really important for men in the past. And that concept is honor, right?
Yes,
Being
yes.
honorable was such an important thing for men. But I think that the concept of honor has missed the last part of the accountability thing. It's like you have to have honor about something, right? About some sort of slight that has been done to you or whatever else. But now the question is, who are you accountable to, right? We
Mm.
know who is accountable, we know what for, but whom
Mm.
to. And
Mm.
for so long, I think the notion of honor, as it was used amongst men, was a kind of like internal men's affair. You know, men made up the rules for this, and they decided what your honorable, what the code of honor is, right? And you're accountable to just your peers, right?
Mhm,
But I
mhm,
think it's so important that we now, you know, the way the world has developed and the things we know now that people maybe weren't paying enough attention to in the past, is that we need to be accountable not just to ourselves and people like us. We also need to be accountable to all the people who are different from us. And
mm,
accountability, the kind of real honor, if you want, of the 21st century, I think is an accountability not just to, you know, for the actions that we do. It's also taking in mind how those actions impact insert variable here, right? So how do they impact women, for example? How do they impact the environment? How do they impact animals? How do they impact, and you know, the list goes on. How do they impact LGBTQ people? How do they impact immigrants? How do they impact such a long list, right?
mm,
And I think this accountability in my work, especially, is very much focused on this. So when I, for example, talk about promoting healthier, more fulfilling masculinities and helping men thrive in the modern world, doing that in an accountable way means making sure that when they thrive, when they find a way to thrive, it's not at somebody else's expense,
mm,
right? Because I can find a great way to thrive. It's stealing stuff, right? I will thrive amazingly if I go around stealing stuff and not get caught. But obviously, that's not accountable to all of those people that I've been stealing from, right?
right?
And if you have a social order in which men are effectively thriving, or any particular man is thriving by exploiting somebody else, well, that's not very accountable to those other people. And I think that so many men have been unaccountable in this way unknowingly, in the sense that you were mentioning again in the first question, right? And like, how do we um like how do men struggle, and even the well-intentioned men can still like unknowingly struggle or like do something wrong in this world. Well, if myself, for example, if I have not been brought up with the capacity to really connect and to really understand my own feelings, understand my emotions, and really self regulate my own emotions as well, because, you know, I've been taught the thing that every man is taught, which is that you're meant to be stoic, you're meant to put your emotions under the carpet, you're not meant to engage with this and be super rational and all of this.
Mm,
What I'm effectively doing is I'm living my life in such a way that if I do have emotional difficulties or outbursts or other things, I make them somebody else's problem
mm,
because I'm not capable of dealing with them. So who needs to deal with them? Well, my friends, my family, my partner, right?
yes,
So in
yes.
this way, I could say like, well, I can I know, develop myself in order to thrive in this world. But if I do that in such a way that I still require other people to do all this emotional work for me because I can't do it myself, then I'm not accountable
Right.
in this
Mm,
sense, right?
mm,
I'm not accountable to them
mm,
because
mm,
I'm effectively pushing. So I might be, honorably, I don't know, being a great provider for the family or something like this,
mm, mm,
right? And I can consider that a great point of honor. But at
mm,
the same time, I'm pushing all of this emotional work on my partner.
mm,
And that is only honorable in this narrow sense in which what my partner thinks doesn't matter
mm, mm.
because I'm not really accountable to her. I'm accountable to, the idea of what a man should be that is agreed upon between men,
Right.
which is you should be a great provider, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
But well, it so happens that my partner disagrees and has
Right.
different interests,
Right.
right? And I need to be accountable to her as well.
Right. You know, you mentioned earlier that you're working also with mindfulness too.
Hmm.
So I try my best, Simon, to meditate at least every day. Some days but I noticed that my day is better. And
Hmm.
this also introduces the mindfulness into my existence here on this plane, like being very mindful. Me personally, I feel that if people were more mindful, most accidents wouldn't happen. Just as simple as that. Let alone these heinous crimes and all of these other things. But tell me, how is it that you are working with or introducing the mindfulness in this arena?
Yeah, great question. I started doing this because, on a personal level, I have noticed that I find it difficult to just be present in a conversation that I'm having with somebody. And I noticed this when people started pointing out that, well, I'm talking to them, but it seems like I'm somewhere else. And I have noticed that this is true. And in many ways, I feel like I was here in the present in my body, but my mind was in the future. I was thinking about something else. And might be in a conversation, I wasn't really listening to the person. I was thinking what I'm going to say next, for example. Or maybe I was thinking about, I don't know, how am I going to meet up with this person next time? I don't know, whatever else, right? But I was not really focusing on this moment. And I noticed this also in a very annoying way that I would then just forget. I don't remember what we talked about because I wasn't really there because I was
Mm,
focusing on something else. I wasn't really listening. I wasn't really present. So mindfulness to me at the beginning was about kind of being in the present, actually being able to focus on the right here, right now, and not focused on the past and the
mm,
future. Well, actually, it's the present that matters. And especially being present with, well, the people I care about, right? The people that I want to really show up for. Because I would notice exactly this sort of disconnect that I mentioned when I talked about Nietzsche, in which my imagined vision of myself is this person who really cares about others, who really shows up for them and is trustworthy in terms of taking care of them when it's needed and all of this. And then I'm just like, well, how can I be that person if I don't actually listen to people who talk to me, right?
mm,
Because when they talk to me, I'm not there.
mm,
I'm
mm,
actually thinking about something else. So it was this moment of knowing yourself, of knowing myself, in which I realized, oh, well, this is this is an arena on which I can improve to be myself better. And it's
mm,
difficult. It's not easy. But mindfulness is one of the tools to do that because mindfulness is exactly forcing you to be in the present, and it gets your nervous system just used to not floating around, but instead focusing on the here and now.
It's right in the word mindful. You have
Mm.
to be filled with being with your mind. You have to be focused on that. Usually, when I speak with someone, like including yourself, we schedule the time and then we spoke. And I try my best to remove all distractions uh, because I want to be focused on what is it that we're talking about. And I've noticed that when I do speak to other people, I go, yeah, can we schedule a call? That one already throws them off. But then they go, oh yeah, we'll talk tomorrow. Then I go, okay, 3 o'clock. Then they go, 3 o'clock. I mean, we're just talking tomorrow. Like, no, 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 no. We're talking at 3 o'clock. You see, because I'm mindful of my time and my relations and all of that. And I want to be able to focus in on what is it that we're talking about. But I do find people thrown off by that scheduling part. They just want to throw things around casually. Like, and I don't think so. I think we should be mindful. I want to respect you and your time. And what is it that we're talking about?
I think this is one of those things that unfortunately modern technology has done to the world in many ways. You know, we're both old enough to remember the times in which you would have to pick up a regular phone to call your friend and arrange to meet next week. And you would arrange
Mhm.
to meet next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And you'd be
Yes.
like, that's
Mhm.
arranged. It's my calendar. I will be there at 5 o'clock. I don't need to message you 2 hours earlier to check, are we still on? Because we
Mhm.
arranged this, right?
Right,
We're gonna
right.
meet. And right now, I constantly get this when I arrange to meet up with my friends next week, and they message me the day before, "Are we still
Mhm,
meeting?" I'm just like,
mhm,
"Yeah, obviously we're still meeting. I said that we're meeting. We're meeting."
mhm. Right?
But
Yeah.
it just becomes so normal to expect
Mhm,
that
mhm,
this is gonna change, right? And I think this
mhm.
is the effect of being constantly connected, having those social media that allow us to constantly chat with people at the time when it was difficult to arrange something because you had to be at the line, they had to be home, you had to be home, you had to use a paper thing to write down the appointment and stuff like that. It
Right.
mattered, it meant something. And right
Yeah.
now it's so easy to kind of chat online and cancel and whatever else, then it stopped mattering.
Yeah. Yeah. In addition to that, Simon, I feel that there are unresolved issues from growing up as a boy, right? And I
Hmm.
think that this is like a strong one because they say that every 7 or 8 years, like we shed a whole set of cells, right? It's
Hmm.
always this seven, right? So, when we're young, they say psychologists have found that the impression that has been pushed upon us, right? Because we're innocent, we don't really know. During those first 7 years of our lives, it kind of sets the tone for many other things and how we treat people. Is it a
Hmm.
casual? Are we focused here? Is it all about me? Am I focused on me? Or am I
Yeah,
focused too much outside? Because I'm sure you've got those guys too. Like they'll do anything for you except for
yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
So I think it's that boyhood, especially traumas too. So what would you say about that? And how is it that you're working with people, when you see some of these things and getting to the root of some of these issues?
Yeah, well, I think it's spot on to say that so many of those norms, the social norms that guide our behavior, introduced very early on in boyhood, absolutely. And in the space where I'm working, we like the term man box. So it's like a box for a man, right? And the idea of the man box is that it's a set of social norms or gender norms that tell men what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. What's inside the box of a man and what's outside of the box of a man, right? So, for example, simple things. Wearing trousers is inside of the box, wearing a skirt is outside of the box, right? Wearing blue is inside of the box, wearing rainbow colors is outside of the box. Yeah. But also things like playing football is inside of the box, right? And cooking is outside, and dancing is outside of the box, for example. Or maybe being really interested in football is inside of the box, but being interested in ice skating, not so much, right? And there's also a lot of the uh, kind of more pervasive or potentially dangerous things. Like what is inside of the box is being super stoic and not allowing your emotions to, ever guide you. And what's outside of the box is being, I don't know, overly emotional. What is inside of the box is being tough, and what is outside of the box is being caring.
Mm,
And very often, the stuff that is outside of the box, the stuff that boys are not allowed to be, is the girly stuff, right?
mm,
As the
mm,
stuff that women are. So, in many ways, from very early age, boys are taught that what it means to be a man is to not be a woman, right?
mm,
Don't throw like a girl. Don't cry like a girl. Don't, don't,
mm.
whatever else like a girl. Don't dress
Right,
like a girl, right?
right.
And I think this is really sad
Mm,
because not only does it really limit people's expression, it also creates this binary from the very beginning. And I think the main thing that we should really focus on right now with boys is to, first of all, is not to teach them how to be a man. First of all, teach them how to be a human,
Mm,
right?
love that.
And just
Yeah.
go like, so many of those things are just human things. You
Mm,
don't need to be like, before you're a good man, be a good human.
mm,
And some of those things that are in this box as well, I think, are particularly pervasive right now, especially when you look at the online advice that men get so much, because they have to do with the age-old masculine supposedly thing, which is competition and hierarchies, and this idea that you're only as good as you're better than others, right?
mm,
If you win, somebody needs to lose. As this zero-sum game. It's
mm,
like, if you're not in the top 20% or 1% or whatever else, then you're a loser, right?
mm,
And you
mm,
need to compete with others to get them.
mm,
And I
mm,
think this is a very damaging thing, especially in the modern society, in which time and again we have seen that what actually brings the best effects for your well-being and for the well-being of everyone around you is not competition, it's collaboration, right?
mm,
It's being able to actually focus less on, am I winning or am I losing, and more or on, are we thriving, are
mm,
we winning, or it's not even winning, it's like, are we, collaborating and connecting and getting what we want.
mm,
And so often, this is what boys are taught from very early age. And when
mm,
you go and listen to all sorts of, online advice on masculinity, that's very often directed to, 12 to 16-year-old boys or something like this, it's all about work harder so that you can win, right?
mm,
Or, yeah, you need to be the alpha, right? With the assumption that that makes you better than others, right? Or that makes you kind of higher in the hierarchy than others. Um, and it's very focused on those kind of very measurable ways of showing that you're somehow better, like
mm,
money
mm,
or
mm,
muscle, right?
mm,
So those are the kinds of
mm,
things that put you on a ladder, and you can kind of, you find your place in the pecking order, and you go, this is where I am, and I'm better than everybody else below, right?
right.
And it's just such a unhappy place to be, I think, because you're
Mhm.
constantly needing to compete, because you can never stop, right?
Right.
You can
You never,
never be happy
never.
with yourself. You
Yeah.
will, and you will
And
never be at the top of the
yeah.
ladder,
And you're not
because
going to beat everybody, right?
exactly. So it's like, it's a recipe for being unhappy in life. It's a recipe for constantly feeling like you're not enough, for
Mm,
constantly feeling that there's somebody else who can beat you up,
mm,
constantly feeling like you can't get what you want because you're not high enough on the ladder.
mm,
And we teach boys this from a very early age, unfortunately. So I think that this is definitely one of those things that I would really like to see change over the next years, in favor of
mm.
focusing more on collaborating rather than competing.
For me, I'm usually in competition with myself. Like, how can I do better? How can I be better? How can I be more present? That in itself, being more present, is already like, come on,
Mhm.
Omar, you're better than that. You're better. Yeah, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think that this is, I mean, so many people are talking about this in this kind of like more healthy self improvement space, let's say, which is that the idea is not to be better than others. The idea is to be better than yourself yesterday.
Yes, yes, yes. And then you use that for the collective, you see? Because
Exactly.
usually what we tell people when they come here, we're the Omziel Healing Sanctuary, by the way. We're located in North Bergen, and we do many things. But
Mhm.
when we have these gatherings, especially the men's retreats that we have, which we have
Yeah.
one coming up now in February, we usually say something to men like, what is it that you want? You you should you should try to find out what is it that sets you on fire, and then use all your energy and your days pursuing that as much as you can. And then how can we find a way to help you do that thing, so that way
Mhm.
we all rise. It's the tide that rises all boats, you
So
know
with this, I would say, I mean, that's a fantastic thing. And I think that,
Mm,
pursuing this is so important. And here, I think the notion of accountability is really important,
mm,
right? Because you can, I mean, to give a ludicrous example, right? If the thing that makes you really happy and that gives you meaning in life and that makes you feel amazing and all of that is killing puppies,
Mm.
right? Then, I
Mm.
mean, great, you feel amazing, but it's probably not the thing you
Right.
should be
It's not.
pursuing,
You're right.
right? So I think it's so important that when we do this, we do it in an accountable way. And accountability in here is the notion of accountability to whom? So
Mm.
it needs to be done in such a way that you're not doing it at the expense of somebody
Right.
else.
I love
Because
that.
maybe what makes you feel great is being a very, I don't know, dominant partner,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And it
Mm.
just so happens that this makes your partner really miserable.
Right. Right.
Yeah?
So true. So true.
And I think, yeah, also in the
Mhm.
context of this, what we teach boy and this collaboration and competition and all of this, it's also about power. And in here, also in this thing, I think it's important to bring up power and, in the context of accountability, because so often when we were taught what power is and that it's good to be powerful, right? It was in the context of what in applied ethics we called power over, right? So I have power over you. What does it mean? I can get you to do what I want you to do, right? And this is what builds the hierarchies. If you're higher up on the hierarchy, you have power over the people lower down in the hierarchy. And I think it's so important that we reframe the notion of power to the notion of power
Mm.
to do something, power to build a better future, power
Mm.
to make your children able to connect with their future partners and friends, right? Power to
Mm.
create a system in which future boys will be growing up happier, power to make your family happy, power to make your team win, power to all sorts of things, right?
Mm.
But it's
Mm.
not power over others, it's the power to create something, to build something, to make something better.
I love that. I absolutely love it. So, we're coming up close to the hour. I was wondering if you
Mhm.
can say some things about the Path Forge that you are the founder and yeah, what's going on? Talk to us. How can people get involved and those type of things?
Absolutely. Well, so Pathforge is the new NGO that I have now started, and the idea is to um, create research and research-based advice for men and for organizations working with men on all of that we've been talking about, which is thriving in this world which is changing so fast, and thriving in a way that is accountable, that is respectful of other people, and that doesn't come at the expense of others, right? So it's this sort of guidance on these sort of things that we've been talking about. Now, the NGO, I'm trying to develop it into a sort of think tank. It's based in Germany, and it's going to create kind of policy advice and research-based reports and documents that can help both men themselves and organizations working with men. So right now, I'm trying to get it off the ground. It's kind of early days. I have been an academic my whole life, and I'm kind of taking this experience, the research experience that I've got, trying to apply it and the everyday practice of people and organizations. And to do this, so far we will release a report very soon on positive narratives and using positive narratives to inspire men to do all of those lovely things. And I gave you some examples of these sort of positive approaches in this whole chat today. Um, this report will be released in the next. Well, by the time this show airs, it probably will have already been released. So if you want to go to our website, you'll find it. Um, and apart from this, I'm also leading discussion groups. So there are online discussion groups that anyone can join. It's
Mhm.
called What About Men? And every month we meet up and we pick a topic. We have talked about loneliness. We have talked about role models. We have talked about mental health. We will be talking about fatherhood in January. And later on, there will be a whole range of other issues. So anyone who would like to join a discussion, they can do this. The group is based around reading opinion pieces, and we read pieces from more left-leaning newspapers and more right-leaning newspapers on the same topic. So the idea is that you kind of get a full picture, right? You don't just get the picture of the people you agree with; you also
Right.
get the picture from the people you don't agree with, and then you kind of discuss the topic on the basis of this. And we record all of those and post them on YouTube and on social media. So if you want to, please follow us on YouTube and we're on Instagram, TikTok, And what else?
Facebook.
Probably.
Yeah.
So feel free to join in that. And if you would like to, we very much welcome contributions. We are a registered charity, fully tax deductible. If you'd like to contribute, much appreciated. And we also welcome volunteers. So we have projects in which we could use some help with. Simple video editing might be one thing, or some admin help helping us looking for grants, or a specific project that we're working on. I would be very happy to find people who are interested in the topic and have more expertise and would like to potentially develop some sort of joint project. Then it would be fantastic as well. Thank you for the opportunity to
Of
advertise this as well.
course, of course.
Great.
That's it's no by chance that I'm connected with you, because all of those things, we are going in that direction. That's what the Omziel Healing Sanctuary does. We're helping people on a
Mhm.
holistic level, to get out of situations that they've been in like
So
forever.
actually, one of the projects that we're thinking about is very related to what you're doing, which is this kind of like men's retreats and men's groups and things like this. And I would very much welcome anyone who has been working in this sort of area,
Mhm.
because I would like to create this guidance book for anyone who wants to set up this sort of group themselves
Mhm. Mhm.
and gather the wisdom of people like yourself on what works, what doesn't work, how to reach the people, how to help them open up, how to guide these sort of meetings. So I would love to talk with anyone who is in that field as well.
That person would be me, brother.
Yeah,
Right.
fantastic. We need to talk
Yes,
more about this meeting.
of course, brother. I mean, naturally, I'm an older person, I guess. I don't know what the hell that means, because that means nothing, right? But I have quite a bit of experience. That's what it means. So
Mhm.
it makes me an authority on some of these subjects. I've been through some things, and I'm able to relate to people and look in their eyes and tell a brother, "Hey, I know what you're going through. I
Mhm.
know what you're feeling. I
Yeah.
didn't read it in a book. You know, but again, I'm always looking for new things, and how we can tweak it a bit and expand it more too, because I know that what I'm sitting on is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I know that. There's no doubt about it, But you need help, or help would be good, actually. Yeah,
Well, let's team up and join forces and make it all happen. Sounds great.
let's do that. Okay, stay right there, Simon.